Right, you're very welcome along to Off the Ball this evening. If you've just joined us, then you've missed some good stuff already. You can get Anthony Nash in the OTB GAA feed. You can get the football kickoff with Sky in our OTB football feed, and loads more besides. Anyway, Arthur is here. Arthur, good evening to you.
How's things, Ger?
Michael is here as well. If anybody, by the way, if you've got anything you want to get off your chest, you can tweet us at Off the Ball, or of course you can also text the show on 53106. We're going to do a new slot Friday evenings where we're giving you some recommendations about what to watch over the course of the weekend, or if you've seen anything good in the world of pop culture. But we're kind of like at a bit of a to just get this thing going, to propel it forward, to like make it really work. So we need help.
Yeah.
We
badly need help.
Big time.
Ideally the producers of the show, who are proving entirely useless when it comes to sorry, I should what?
I've checked out by Friday, Ger. I'm gone out the door.
That'll change. Now, he is on holidays next week, in fairness. So I would describe this as more, doing it to kind of create it, so build it and they will come attitude to this particular one. But these are often the most interesting chats. Sure.
It's a couple of things that I was interested in talking about. It's harder to find a 30 for 30 documentaries at the minute, and the ones that they've done in recent years haven't been as good. And I kind of blame Michael Jordan a little bit for this, where the superstars realise that they can make TV shows, and those TV shows are worth lots and lots of money. So when you're listening to people talking about why the Wrexham crew are there, they're like getting 400 grand an episode or 800 grand an episode, depending on who you listen to, right? And so therefore they're getting the money back from the club straight away for the TV show. But obviously they have Premier League dreams, and if they turn that into a Premier League club, they're billionaires, because they're, as opposed to the hundreds of millionaires they're already. But the Tom Brady one, right? I don't know if you've seen Man in the Arena.
No, I've seen bits and pieces of it here and there, but I've never actually sat down and watched.
I sat and watched like 4 episodes, and it's like Tom Brady's story is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right? But what you get is this, like, there's a few episodes which are like slightly, Tom was a bit of an asshole, but it's like somebody who he really respects now and has agreed that he is of a certain group who can say these things about him. But if somebody was to make a proper thing about Brady, it'd be amazing. But I don't know, because
how do you do that with you need the Brady interviews. You need like good, long Brady interviews as part of that. But
or else you're just getting talking heads interpreting what he said.
Using old
it's like
perspective.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. There's a problem with documentary making in general, in that like everybody has become a filmmaker, everybody has become a content creator, and because of that, these people are making their stories about themselves, and there's a mad issue there. Like, I mean, that goes across media in general, not just sport. Have you ever seen the Eagles documentary? Bill Simmons was always banging on about it, and I watched it, and he couldn't have been more right. It's absolutely. It used to be on Netflix. I don't know. It's not there anymore. I don't know where it is. But it was basically. It was probably the last one where they treaded that line, where they basically agreed to do it if you focused just as much on their happy reunion story as you did their unbelievably interesting 70s and breakup and so on, right?
This is the band, the Eagles, not the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, the band, yeah, right. So there's a part 1 and a part 2. Part 2 is kind of shite, but that was the only input they had. So they contributed and did all the interviews, and that was their on board, was like, you have to focus on our happy story. But the part, you never have to watch part 1 or part 2, because part 1 is this unbelievable, warts and all, incredibly visceral story of this mad band in this amazing, like, the golden era of rock music in America, so I think that might have been the last one, because they're involved but they don't have full editorial control, whereas now it's like all of these people have.
Well, yeah, and that's definitely one aspect of it. It's the control element of the brand, and you're seeing that now with the Netflix and Wales kicking them out just as the bit gets good, right? So the Welsh team are on the verge of striking and not having a game against England in the Six Nations, which will be catastrophic for the CVC investment, who are the ones who are like getting the Netflix cameras in the first place. It'll be catastrophic for the future of Welsh rugby. It'll be catastrophic for the future of English rugby, and for the tournament's respect. And while they're deciding one way or another, cameras aren't there.
Yeah, it strikes me though. I don't mind that so much. Do you know that? And I don't. It's almost like you're kind of working up what you're entitled to. So if that happens in...
You don't mind it from whose perspective, though?
From just a human perspective.
But then you're watching that documentary series. It's going to be largely.
I would like you personally. It wouldn't. That wouldn't probably be for me in terms of thing. But
my point about it is Wales are totally entitled to do what they want. The Welsh players, I would fully support if they were getting paid enough money. But
that's what I mean. That's the difference. That's the point of difference. That, as we've kind of seen from those lads, like their life is all quite in jeopardy, and it's probably that just instills a kind of a degree of.
Once again, you've gone to the moral core of the argument here, and I agree with you on that point, right? But my point is about from a documentary series, like that new Netflix thing about rugby is compromised out the gate, because they actually don't have access to the best stuff. Now, I think several of the Irish lads who are involved, I'm going to be interested to hear what their stories are and see if we get to know a bit more about them, even though they live amongst us and we're supposed to know a good bit about them. That's their challenge. But I think the Netflix stuff only works in Formula One because we don't know the people. The stuff in the golf, I think, has been largely. I haven't seen any of it.
No,
I've got
mixed enough reviews. I think
haven't heard
a
any
lot of
good
people were saying
reviews.
that the first episode might have been one of the weakest. It was Justin Thomas, but I think even the positive ones aren't exactly what you would call good or mind blowing.
No. Whereas with Drive to Survive, people who did not like the sport got into the sport and wanted to follow the sport. It had that it had this incredible ability to suck casual fans in. And
to a narrative,
and what's happened is that there's copycat stuff that comes out and every sport needs it, and it's like, well, you can't just do the same thing.
It's remarkable, really, though, isn't it? Like how many there are. I can't believe how quickly they're just kept. Like the turnaround is so quick. Just keep going. Rugby, grand. Quarterbacks, that's grand. Golf, go on, fire ahead, and just keep going and going and going.
The quarterbacks thing, if people are unfamiliar with it, they just announced it this week that they were in with, and they were in last season, right? Yeah, am I correct? So
sure.
It's Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and a few others who are pretty interesting. I don't know if they got Jalen Hurts or not. And that's, I think, due out soon. So it'll be interesting to see. In America, they kind of understand that.
They do. NFL films have like cameras on them all the time. They've all done Hard Knocks before. Do you know what
I'm interested with that as well? Is they've no need to do that, which is quite interesting.
Yeah,
the NFL could.
It's part of the culture.
It's very. They've absolutely no need to do it. They've no need. Their popularity's through the roof. Like it's not. I presume it'll open up some new avenues, but like at the same time, they're not in need of new eyes the way F1 was. Like it's a proper kind of. They've got
How? So can I come back to how like Tom Brady or Michael Jordan
ruined it?
Yeah, because I'm not sure of the thread exactly in here.
It's a good point, Mick. I'm not sure of the thread exactly.
No, but I mean in terms of like why things aren't
Patrick
as
Mahomes,
good anymore.
Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota are the three. So you get like the absolute apex. You get somebody who's had a failure of a season. You get somebody who had moments in the year, but then ultimately does Kirk Cousins things.
And Mariota's career is over, and he's a starter this year, but he's on like a terrible team, and things ebb and flow over the course of the year. That's interesting. Like that could be very good.
The Mahomes thing, right? Like one of the most compelling athletes on the planet at the moment, and one of the most talented. So this is the challenge, to see if there are any minutes in this where he is unguarded or he feels like he doesn't have.
Yeah,
he can't say no. I don't want that to go in.
Yeah,
But
I think bringing back to that track, I think there's two conversations. I think there's the editorial control of people being involved in their own stories, and then there's the second one of is copycat culture of these. So they can do whatever they want with that. If they're in there with three people, they can make whatever type of documentary, type of show they want, and it doesn't have to be the story of the season. Which I think, and today we're with Mariota.
It could well be the story of the season, and it'll be the ebb and flow, and there'll be games that they win, and there'll be games where they lose. There'll be a bit of heartbreak.
But I think that in some ways, the tennis and the golf and maybe the rugby, we'll see what happens, sound like they're just like in Drive to Survive light. Whereas, like, what I'm really looking forward to, and I don't know when it's coming out because we were expecting it before now, was like the cameras following Ronnie O'Sullivan around for all of last year, which culminated in winning the World Championship, and apparently unbelievable access. Ken Doherty was talking to us about it.
Who's this for Netflix?
Netflix as well. I think it was independent, and they did agreement with Netflix, and maybe that's why there's been a bit of a delay. But what I mean is that, like, at least that sounds like a kind of a specific story being told by a fly on the wall rather than the story of the sport.
I also think that Ronnie O'Sullivan is one of the few people who's probably less concerned about the brand and the marketability. Like, he doesn't have a TB12. He owned a chain.
But I'd say he doesn't care about that either.
He owned a chain of lingerie stores at one point. A man with many investments, but I don't think he's got like a self-help thing that is only going to be focused on how Tom Brady is now going to be the best co-comment analyst that we've ever seen because they've given him the biggest contract.
Yeah.
Like Tom Brady's a media savant, and his team are absolute geniuses. Everything, there's never been a wrong step when it comes to that stuff.
Is that true though? But like, you had the Make America Great Again thing, which definitely I appreciate there's an audience for that too. But it was slightly out of kilter, I think, probably with most of his peers. Like,
I'd say with all of his peers, they were like certainly within the hierarchy of that group, himself and Belichick, and I don't know what Bob Kraft's politics are, but I'm willing to bet he's a Republican. I'm
not taking that bet.
Stick my chips in the centre there and go, how do you vote, Bob?
I'll double down.
It was a misstep in terms, like, I think that he backed a winner at that stage, right? That was pre the first one. And then he backed away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he didn't. I actually think that the calculation there wasn't on the same level. I think he made an
emotional decision.
I think something close to it, yeah. But I think it was just a throwaway thing. And I think he doesn't do too many throwaway things. I think when he does things that are organised, they tend to hit.
I guess my point is that, like, he's funny on Twitter, he's funny on Instagram, he has managed to navigate the choppy waters of divorcing from the world's most famous model and come out the other side of that looking like the world's best family man. Do you know? And his media organisation has produced a documentary series where, it gets to the heart of what made him the great competitive warrior that he is. Like,
I
still watch 4 episodes of this, like 8-episode thing where
because
it's like
the story is so compelling.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
like his story is ridiculous, and they obviously have access to everybody apart from Bill Belichick, who you'd like to hear from in the midst of all that.
On Jordan ruining everything, and
look, obviously that's an extreme. It's never going to be as good as it could have been if he had allowed everybody to say everything they wanted to say. Like, if we could have Scottie Pippen really tearing him apart, if we could have done more with everybody there, like, Jordan came across like a bit of an asshole in that, but not the full asshole that he clearly is.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, all the memes that come from this, however, 2 years later, are all like Michael Jordan taking names, like, that's everything that came from it,
Yeah.
But like, the only thing I was going to say was that is who Michael Jordan is, right? He is a cranky figure. He is obsessed with his legacy and his reputation. And for him to have made that doc, that's the only way it could have been done. So because of that, we got a raw way. Yeah. No, we are never going to get it, but that's what I mean. But I think we got the best possible one you could get with Michael Jordan participating in it.
Do the interview with Roy Thompson for his 50th, where he had no editorial input whatsoever. Yeah. Brought him over, brought Thompson around, spent about 2 or 3 days, I think, together in each other's company.
I haven't read it.
That's amazing. But it's about from about 10 years ago.
Yeah, maybe I have read it.
I'd say you did at the time, almost certainly.
But I guess I'd love, because the footage,
it's
him
the 10
flying
episodes
through the air that's the thing that hooks you in. That one of the things that made basketball the global thing that it is that every kid in the world jumps. Everybody has run and taken the jump, and we all know how bad we are at it.
Yeah.
And we can all compare ourselves to this guy who's like, how do you do that? And then at the end of it, he puts the ball in the thing. It's like, wow.
And from the halfway, that was Space Jam. That was fake. I thought it was brilliant, though. Is that the fog of lockdown?
I loved it.
Was it not amazing?
It was fantastic. But this is part of it. There's a very interesting dynamic of it. So if you take Martin Scorsese, right, and he's made, I think, 2 different films with Bob Dylan. So they made that No Direction Home. So Bob Dylan as a cultural icon is as significant as Michael Jordan, right? It's the same, you're talking about the same stratosphere. So he made this one in about the early 2000s, No Direction Home, which is a sobering fucking long 2-disc thing of Bob Dylan's life up to 1966.
Right.
That's it. So like, it's, it's incredible. And it's, no detail left unturned, and talking heads amazing, everything. But it's quite sober and humourless to a degree. Like, it's very right in the middle. And about 2 years ago, he made that other one, the Rolling Thunder Review. So, which is basically where Bob Dylan, the story picks up almost in 1974, and it's this tour that goes on the road. And it's great. It's on Netflix. It's like 2 hours long, and it's amazing. The footage is amazing, like incredible footage. And what they did, and I'm not sure if Bob Dylan dictated this or if Martin Scorsese dictated this, but both would have had to consent to it, was they just inserted a load of sort of erroneous false characters into the story. So like you had the guy Van Dorp, or Van Dorf or something, who's this fictional German filmmaker, and there's a talking head for him. He's there telling you about stuff that happened, and I sort of ID him in this old footage, but he was the guy dictating all the footage and everything. You have Sharon Stone playing herself, who says she came on the tour as a 17-year-old or something. Never happened. There's concert promoters. There's all these different things just fit in.
Right.
And it's very acutely called from the thing. It's called Rolling Thunder Review or whatever, a Bob Dylan story.
Right.
Now, if we're talking about people who manage their thing and people who manage their outside persona, like, again, you're talking about Tom Brady, Bob Dylan can fit into that thing in terms of how you manage it publicly. I don't know then what you, like, in terms of what we want or what we get, if we accept that we're never getting warts and all.
Yeah.
I'm wondering which is more enjoyable.
Well,
are you happy to be? You're being lied to one way or another.
Yeah.
At least this was entertaining.
I'd love to see that. The fake reportage, fake
Sorry,
stories.
I shouldn't make the point. There's no giveaway that they're fake.
Oh, is there not?
Oh no, it's completely taken as real.
So
It's only afterwards, because it was like when you see Sharon Stone, the game's up a little. It's like, really? I've never heard this before. And you kind of look into it, and there are about 4 characters I think from it who are false.
Right. And what was their post? Did they ever speak about it?
No, of course not.
Right.
What's the? I don't. What was the
Bob Dylan's
virtue
an
of
artist.
it?
Okay.
It's artistry.
Yeah,
It's artistry.
and okay, that makes sense.
Storytelling, it's everything else, you know.
And look, I suppose we just have to accept that as an authored piece of TV, Michael Jordan's thing was Michael Jordan's thing, right? And that's his version of the truth.
Yeah.
I think that's what I was going to say though. As a first person delivery, I think there's room for that too, and that's as good as we're going to get. If we can get the story of Michael Jordan, you're not going to have that's a objective from the outside looking in. I don't think we're going to do it with the same level of access. So I think you pay, you rob Peter to pay Paul in a way, in whatever. You're going to have a bit of one thing or another, aren't you?
Maybe. In the early days of the 30 for 30s, you just had these. Now, sometimes they would be one side of a story, and obviously because they had more access, the story was more sympathetic to it. But it feels like there's no going back. Like, there's probably a good Beckham documentary to be made. I'm not sure, but there's no way on earth that's getting made.
He is not going to give the interview for that documentary unless he's an exec producer.
Yeah, and so therefore he'll be making money from it, and so therefore it's like just a puff piece ultimately for his ego.
No, I completely agree. That's the main point for me. But what I mean is that if we're going to have to do it sometimes, I prefer the Jordan way than the Tom Brady way, which I think
they're kind of the same.
I think in Jordan's mind, that was warts and all, even though it might not have been. Whereas I think in Brady's, he's a little bit. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it all. You're right, but my sense is that it's more the presentation of Tom Brady to the world.
Michael Strahan is in the one where they lose to the Giants, and it's like Strahan breaks the stack record that year, and the Giants come from nowhere to beat them, and it's like, that's one that got away, and there's a bit of self-deprecation in it. That's his version of warts and all. I didn't do as well as I could have. After my first 3, I was coasting a bit, and then I changed and I discovered that I could eat avocado ice cream and do whatever it takes to win. So anyway, that's where we got to.
No solution.
53106, the text number if you've got any better ideas for us.
Last thing, you can still, I think, trick people into it, right, with massive egos. FIFA documentary, I don't know if it's blown away. It's nowhere near the line of it's nowhere near the level of Jordan or anything like that, but I thought it was pretty good. We had the producer on when it was out, and basically, was Sepp Blatter involved in this in any way? Like, why was he so? Sepp Blatter wasn't involved. They just had the ego. He gave them 3 days, thought everybody was his best friend. They thought they were making this lovely film about Sepp Blatter where he was going to tell his side of the story. They didn't. They told an objective story, but Blatter is there giving them everything.
Yeah.
So there's an ego aspect that you could still get this over the line, but for Beckham types and for Jordan types, for these businessmen, sports people, we're past it.
Yeah, they all have sporting careers that merited. That's an investigation.
LeBron James isn't going to do it.
Well, the LeBron films and documentaries, like there could be great stuff about his origin story, but I don't think there's going to be too much about what if you just had stayed in one place and they built a team around you forever. If you weren't But I don't know. LeBron James could end up as the president, right? That's still within the realm of possibility. That there's like that could be where his career trajectory goes. And he's thinking, I'm in LA, I'm in Hollywood. We're going to make a movie that puts forward all my stuff. I'm building these schools, and now I have a base in Miami, and I've got one in Cleveland, and I've got one here, and I can.
But he'll make the movie.
Yeah, and
is my point.
Like, if it's with the aim of doing it, then I have a bit more sympathy for that, as opposed to I had scores to settle and I want to be considered the greatest of all time, and I want to make sure that I get my side of this, where like there is some shady shit in the Brady story with Deflategate, and there is some
Deflategate's nothing,
and there is some stuff in
there's shady stuff there, but Deflategate's the most. Deflategate's this did the Fox News tell you that
the Patriots
that he's
fan,
a bad guy for a while.
The Patriots fan.
It was a nothing story.
Well, I don't think it was. Anyway. So he got his side out of the story.
40 points.
And some people bought it, clearly. Right, Mick. We were going along so well there. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break to let the tempers cool. We'll bring you the 9 o'clock news and an update on everything that's going on in the League of Ireland and everything else from Richie. And we'll be back with some of our best stuff coming up in the next hour.